Well, hello and welcome to another Daily Dominion. It is Single Expansion Tuesday, and we have a Plunder-only kingdom. And for Plunder kingdoms, there is, well, usually some sort of loot and money stuff going on. Here, even more, especially in the absence of proper trashing, as we'll see in a sec. You can see the cards here. Probably notable here are Grotto, which lets you set aside up to 4 cards this turn, and then the next turn you will draw as many cards as you've set aside. Then also interesting Trickster, letting each other player gain a curse, and then once this turn, when you discard a treasure from play, you may set it aside and put it into your hand. And Trickster in this kingdom is Tireless, and that means that whenever we discard a Trickster from play, we set it aside and put it onto our deck at end of turn. And that means that in conjunction with Grotto, which draws at the start of our turn, we will be able to draw the Trickster we have just top decked essentially, and be able to deal out curses pretty quickly if we get that going. But for that, we need to get the Trickster into our deck first. And to have that, like both the Grotto and the Trickster in our deck, well, we would love to have the 5-2, but we do not. And we also can only hope that the AI doesn't have 5-2. I think 5-2 here is super strong, but still with Journey around, you can also have a somewhat productive 3-5, 3-4, or 4-3, I think. But yeah, let's go back to the card overview. There is Sack of Loot, which gains us loots, and loots are those 15 different cards, treasure cards, that mostly give +3 money and usually also give +buy. There's a treasure in there, a card that can play actions. There is Shield that can save you from attacks, and Shield is particularly good in working with Trickster, because Trickster lets you set aside a card for your next turn, and Shield, if you have it in your hand, then you can block attacks. Sword, on the other hand, can be a bit nasty against Trickster because it will be a discard attack. So if you do not have the shield to block the sword, then you might be in for a world of hurt. Insignia is nice to set up next turns, figurehead, good draw. And also something very interesting to talk about is Journey. Journey says for 4, we can buy it. You don't discard cards from play in cleanup this turn. Take an extra turn after this one, but not a third turn in a row. And that means that, well, you can essentially have 2 turns, especially if you have extra buys, but it comes at the cost of your cards being stuck in play. And where Grotto is great to set up the next turn draw, having the Grotto stuck in play with Journey means that you actually want more Grottos than just 2, like every other turn, but rather, if with Journey you would like to have at least 3, if you buy Journey every turn, and you get to set aside on the Journey turn and on the pre-Journey turn and on the Journey turn in the best case. Of course, here this is going to be super hard. We're going to struggle with deck control a lot, as I said, there is no trashing. Another card that synergizes with Journey is Swamp Shacks, as Swamp Shacks counts the cards that you have in play, and it gives you +1 card per 3 cards we have in play when we play it. And Journey, well, Journey lets a lot of cards be stuck in play, so that is a synergy. Swamp Shacks also synergizes with stuff like Abundance, Gondola, Longship, Flagship, duration cards in general. And also pulling Chalice in games with Swamp Shacks is not all too bad. But we'll see how this goes. It's going to be messy. If we look at the kingdom plot, we see that, well, the kingdom plot tells us that there is absolutely no thinning. I know this is not technically true, because with Stack of Loot you get a chance, 1 in 15, and later on better to pull the prize goat, but, well, you cannot really count on that, and it might make the game actually pretty swingy. And yeah, alt VP, there is no real alt VP, but you can curse your opponents, especially in the absence of trashing. That, I would say, that counts as alt VP. And a bit of draw, a bit of gains, a bit of village, but mostly this is going to be messy. Strategy-wise, what are we aiming for? Well, we are aiming for obliterating our opponent with curses via Trickster and hope to not get obliterated ourselves. All the while getting a pair of grottos going, a sack of loot going, and then later on a bunch of swamp shacks. To have those swamp shacks, also, of course, pulling hammer would be great. So as you can see, there are a lot of really good loot, so it's very nice to prioritize sack of loot, I think. I don't know whether we're going for Longship. I don't think we're going for Silver Mine, even though with Gondola's on gain effect, this could sometimes be nice. But there are other priorities for 5. You might just go for Swamp Shacks, actually, or... yeah, I don't know. Opening-wise, let's look at what I prepared here. I think the 4-3 might be the worst opening in parentheses, because you're going to shuffle all of your 11 cards on turn 2. On the 3-4, I think that's a bit better. You get to buy a Grotto and then buy Journey and buy another Grotto and maybe even set aside cards already. It's very likely that you're going to find a lot of estates in the next hand on turn 2. And yeah, as I said, I think Trickster Grotto is a superb opening just because of Tireless being such a boost for Trickster, such a nasty synergy. I don't know. Yeah, let's see what the AI has, and let's go for this kingdom. 7 minutes of talking, I'm sorry. The AI goes for Flagship. Yeah, Flagship I haven't talked about that much yet. As I said, it slightly synergizes with Swamp Shacks, but it has kind of an anti-synergy with Grotto, because if Grotto is the first card you play on your turn, and if you just have a hand of 5 cards, double playing the Grotto doesn't yield that much, but sometimes you might get to double play Trickster, which might be nasty. And yeah, we go for the Journey here. The Grotto does bottom deck, but we do get to shuffle in a second Grotto, which unfortunately we find here again. Now we could think about just setting, so if we hadn't found this Grotto here, we might have thought about just setting aside 2 to just get to the end of this shuffle. But here I think it might be nice to already shuffle in this Grotto again. If we're very lucky, we might pull it off the top and hit 5 all the while. Actually, we could set it aside as well and draw one more card the next turn. Yeah, I think I like that, because it's going to be shuffled in anyways. And indeed, we do manage to draw it. Now there's the question of whether we want to go for Sack of Loot or Trickster here. I think I slightly prefer Trickster, just because yeah, we might be able to curse the AI to oblivion. And AI does go for the Sack of Loot first. Now here, I think we prefer to keep the draw stuff going. So we just pick up a silver in order to facilitate hitting 6 for the Sack of Loot. And we do get to set aside this copper. And now here the Trickster starts to show its nasty side. We're a bit lucky that the Grotto doesn't bottom deck there. But yeah, we now just go for the Sack of Loot and see what we can pull from it. It's a bit of a pity that we only get to side so little cards right now. But here we find the Grotto again, and this turn I think whatever we draw, we might just go for setting aside 4 cards, play the Trickster, and maybe add another Grotto. We're very lucky that the AI didn't hit 5 and didn't go for Trickster. But yeah, we didn't find the sack of loot there, but that's not that much of a problem. Now on this next turn, we might even journey. Also, a tiny downside of journey here is that if you journey and if you play Trickster and then buy journey on the same turn, then you do not get to set aside a treasure with it, because Trickster does say this turn, and journey does say you do not discard any cards from play. And if you, once this turn, when you discard a treasure from play, if you don't discard any treasures from play because of journey, then, well, you won't get to set it aside. But yeah, I think I like, well, let's see what we pull here, but maybe we might even just buy journey this turn, because we've set aside a grotto here, and that means we will draw a lot of cards next turn. And is it worth here to go for drawing all of this stuff? Actually, I'm saying no. There is a risk of not finding the grotto there, and therefore it might we might just really be better off just, I don't know, buying a swamp shacks or even a flagship, and then next turn we can buy a gondola too, if we find it. And yeah, I think I like this. We will have plus buy here, and yeah, we're slowly getting there. AI also does have powerful loots with hammer and figurehead. And yeah, here, as I said, we might just pick up a gondola and double curse the AI. And we did get an insignia, which is great. And now we can start adding swamp shacks as well. And the gondola will be nice with the swamp shacks, just as a proper duration card. And do we set aside the sack of loot or the silver? I think we go for the sack of loot. Yeah, let's see what the AI does. The AI does seem to have a somewhat functioning deck with all of this loot in it, but I think in the long run, we will just be able to succeed just due to having all of this, all of these curses in its deck. So here, once again, I like going for the double Trickster play. And just another swamp shacks. We could also think about double grotto. Then we might need to worry about piles getting low. But yeah, we are ahead in points. We have 8 points more than AI. Yeah, this Trickster stuff is just pretty devastating, I would say. Swamp shacks or grotto? Let's say swamp shacks, but this is really a gut decision. Yeah. Let's see what we draw this next turn. We do have the insignia to top deck stuff. And yeah, we should pick up the fourth grotto here for sure. Do get to set aside 3. Do get to draw 1. And drawing this grotto is awful, of course. But here what we can do, because we have the insignia, we can next turn these gondolas, and by journey top deck a swamp shacks, and then we should be able to draw back to this grotto. Well, we will draw 3, plus we will have 8 cards in hand, and our swamp shacks in there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in play. We'll draw 3 cards each at the least, and we have the flagship. Yeah, we will be able to draw through. Let's just make sure we find this extra grotto to set up this next turn. And flagship the swamp shacks. A greedier play there would have been to just go for swamp shacks and hope. But really, I think this was the correct way to do it. And now let's just next turn this amphora to power up Swamp Shacks a bit, go for Grotto and just Province. Actually a bit greedier, but let's go for the extra buy here and put in yet another Swamp Shacks into the deck. I think it should be fine. We can even journey here again, just as we did on this last turn. Wow, all of those grottos, that's super awful. Actually, I'm inclined to just set aside 4 cards here. We do not have plus buy. This is really not a great draw, but just put all of this stuff in play and just buy journey and then hope for our Swamp Shacks to support us. And we do not, we find neither the other Swamp Shacks nor the other stuff. It's pretty bad, to be honest, but we do have the Flagship in play, so the first Swamp Shacks that we will play will be double played, and for that reason we 100% should next turn this Amphora here. And we do not want to top deck this Chalice, so we can just Province double Swamp Shacks, I guess, or Swamp Shacks Flagship. Yeah, this looks good. Even though we missed we drew all of those grottos on the top of our shuffle there, I think we're still fine. But of course, it's quite annoying that that we had this kind of draw. Now, if we just put the flagship in play, we wouldn't be able to draw further. So let's put the flagship in play here. Actually, in that regard, Flagship is slightly superior to another Swamp Shacks, as this means that we double play the Swamp Shacks and draw 2 cards twice. And yeah, let's not set anything aside here. Just try to draw through a bit. And yeah, these draws are really not that great, but we are almost there to just finish off the flagships. But yeah, we do not have an insignia, right? That's annoying. Could go for flagship and journey and just hope for the best. I think we're so far ahead in points that this kind of greedy play should be alright. We've set aside, well, 2 cards. And if we find a Swamp Shacks there, then we should be golden. But on the other hand, we have 4 Swamp Shacks in play. There is only 1 Swamp Shacks down there. Now maybe it's just safer to go for another province here. It's very, very close. We're just one coin off of finishing the flagships, but I think it's still the safest to just go for province, even though this means that we are going to probably slog this through a lot. Let's see whether we would have drawn the Swamp Shacks here, or whether it was correct. Now with the insignia, of course, we can top deck another Swamp Shacks and then set up a nice journey turn. Yeah, I don't know. This kingdom is super messy. Like drawing your grottos and at the wrong time, yeah. Oh, well, doubloon is not good. And no, actually, we just straight up win here. We have the flagships, so we can pile out. But in principle, if we didn't have that venue to end the game here, I would have just now top decked 1 or 2 Swamp Shacks, and then we would have kicked off the next turn very nicely with a nice journey turn. Maybe we can showcase it. That's just for funsies. Let's claim this victory. Set aside the shield. Very thematic. And yeah, we've won this. But let's also see, just explore where this journey turn would have led us. Maybe we would have had a nicer, a very nice kick off here. I just got like 2 Swamp Shacks, buy Journey, and have all of those Swamp Shacks draw really nicely. And well, we do draw quite nicely, but it doesn't change that much, right? It just lets us, well, buy all of those flagships still and an extra estate, because we didn't find yet another Swamp Shacks. I like our deck composition overall, but with the absence of thinning, I think the game just really takes different turns here, depending on whether AI picks up the Trickster, because now, of course, we won the Chris split 10-0, and that was kind of easy. In an earlier run where I played this kingdom for the first time, it did go for Trickster, and it was even messier than now. I don't know, this kingdom is really on the swingy side. I do not like it all too much. Yeah, what I do like, however, is the collage provided by Pianist. This time today we're also in time again, so we can showcase it. And as always, you can see it here. And this time he started putting in yet another piece of art from a card that is not in this kingdom, and that makes it, of course, harder, but I think I've found it. So I'll give you 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to pause the video and try to find everything on your own. And yeah, now we can look through and see whether we can identify everything. We do have, of course, in the middle of the picture, the guy from Trickster. Then in the background, I believe that's the background of Grotto, and I really love how nicely this blends in with the cave exit of Silvermine. Then also there are some flowers of abundance over here. We can see the figurine up here in the cave, kind of as a mural. We have amphora, very nicely displayed here. Let's scroll down to showcase it. Yeah, there we can see it. And then in the foreground, there's a bit of the good old Journey foliage right here. And now so that was 7, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the 8th thingy, it belongs to the Nono Kingdom, is the lantern, I believe, that this guy is holding, which is in the middle of the Swamp Shacks picture. And now these guys here, I actually recognize them to be from Empires. And now this is a slight spoiler, so you can think about it yourself already while I'm searching for it. And yeah, do you see them? They are part of the patrician art, actually mirrored and looking quite nicely. And now you can also see from which expansions I've banned cards, from which expansions I've disliked cards. You can try to guess which ones they are. But yeah, this was a nice challenge. I'm pretty happy that I recognized this. And yeah, I mean, I guess the daily is gone now. But with that, I'm finished here, and I will try to catch you in the next one. And until then, goodbye.